Hello, everyone, and welcome to a replay of our final round of the FA Casuals tournament. We still have Colonized, Zorbaz, Andreas G, and Adderfield. I'm still Blues here with Urand.
Still hello.
So Silicon, again, is interesting. This time there is plenty enough for nomads. It's very concentrated. Well, there are, I guess, plenty of low patches as well. Definitely a lot of other founds available as well, though, so there's no rush to found this game. I would be tempted to do a scientist with this double price deal. Though the best scientist location only has 2 irons, so it makes it harder.
Yeah, it's a big question if you want to ship steel as a scientist, or ship life support, for that matter.
I
In
think
the northeast
here
spot.
found with ice, silicon, and iron. I think that's just strictly worse than on top of the cliff.
I guess, alright, ice works for scientists. That's a thing that exists.
Right.
Then you have an option northwest, with 4 iron tiles.
Yeah, Zorbaz making decent use of that. Adderfield going elite, not what I would have done, but it is a fine elite location.
It certainly looks very viable.
Yep. Colonize going Nomad. Nomad is never the wrong choice, especially with Electronics' normal price. Colony has spit out a machine shop though, so if things keep going that direction, it might get a bit awkward. Probably not. Andreas G flooding that water market, taking advantage of that double price water before anyone else can. Very nice. The downside to that, of course, is that none of the life support markets are really any good yet. So once water has crashed, doesn't really have a good option to move into. Maybe it would have been better to just move into the double pump, have 2 claims available for the wind. But it's hard to say.
Just looking at this market, I'm thinking, what other than steel is good here? And I'm not really finding anything particularly tempting. I guess glass would be okay. And power, obviously. But other than power, really none of those are viable for Andreas at the moment. So maybe he did have to make a play on power and try to repay his debt quickly.
Right. As Andreas, I'd probably be more tempted to move into reactors, preparing for a move into chems afterwards, but I guess steel is expensive enough that that might just be too difficult. And that might be why he's going for the farm instead.
Well, glass is quite expensive as well, although not really as expensive as steel, so... I'm liking the solar panels from Adderfield. He seems to be the first to move into power.
Yeah, there's a decent chance, there's a good chance he'll get into power money soon.
I am completely wrong, actually. Colonize already has a Jew and moving to a second one. And he's almost done with his debt, and life support is low, so he's going to make quite a lot of money.
Food is starting to climb quite a bit, but Colonize can pretty easily move into food right now and be fine. He's moving to chems instead. Always going to be a bit nervous about moving to chems without having reactors to support them.
He does have carbon at least, so it's not unreasonable.
Right, and Zorbaz does have reactors down and auto-selling. So there's that going for him as well. I'm hoping he returns this claim as soon as he can, and he does. Nice way to use that nomad advantage. Adderfield, moving into that elite pleasure domination too.
Adderfield has certainly been liking his pleasure domes this whole tournament.
This time it's not going to be as effective with 2 scientists and nomad. He'll need to get a few more upgrades under his belt before that really starts paying off.
It feels a little bit early, but it certainly can pay well. And one benefit of sort of reading the situation is that he realized that the chem refineries for colonizer are going to make this pleasure dome a little bit easier for him to run.
Well, in theory,
In
colonize
theory,
could
at
also
least.
make it more difficult by stockpiling.
Which is what he's doing, so I guess never mind.
Yeah. I would like for Adderfield to actually get out of this power now. With the Pleasure Dome down, that basically means he's given up on making power money, and those tiles could easily be repurposed to do something more useful.
I'm not entirely sure he should do that. He still has some option to just go harder into power and repay. Granted, he probably wants to do something else.
Right, I mean, my reasoning for that is Colonize has 2 Geos, Andreas has the 2 Wind. Those tiles aren't going anywhere. Zorbaz, I guess, doesn't have power, so maybe there is something sustaining power. But power is just not very high, and I think there's room to get something else done. Of course, Outerfield also has these 2 silicon tiles and a massive stockpile of silicon, so that's another option for a transition.
It also kind of means that he can always transition back into panels if he needs to.
Mm-hmm. I would like to see this last claim pair up with that low silicon tile to like make chems or something. See, he's also moving to a patent lab now. I assume going for virtual reality.
He's going really aggressive on this play. I think I want to say it's a little too aggressive because he's sort of starting to paint a large target on his head.
Right. Though there are no goon poppers, so it's mostly just going to be people throwing dynamites at him. Which they might not want to since they all have patent labs of their own. It will be interesting.
It is interesting that everyone is rushing to patent labs. Makes a little bit more sense in Colonizer's case because he is so far ahead in upgrades.
Right, and also has plenty of cash and chem production.
But it's an interesting and aggressive play from Adderfield, I think, especially because as an elite, he really doesn't need these patents immediately.
Right, he could have afforded to wait until later. He's not going to get locked out ever.
Yes, but he wants to take them quickly so that no one else has access to them, which is always a very tempting thing to do with the elite. I almost want to say this. I almost want to say it's one of the reasons why elite isn't that good because it really provokes you to play super aggressively.
Right. One thing that works out very nicely in Adderfield's favor, that early power play, it keeps his debt a lot more under control than it tends to be for elites. And it also helped propel him a bit forward so he's not lagging behind. Although he is still way behind Colonize because nomads are ridiculous.
And yeah, so he is a big target, so he's getting frozen, but thankfully his Pleasure Dome is still online, which is the single best building he has that outproduces everything else combined.
Yep. I don't know that I'd be getting aggressive with dynamites as Adderfield. I guess he does have a goon stored up, so he's not worried about his Pleasure Dome going down anytime soon, but so what did Colonize really get out of his slant drilling? Okay, he got way too much water out of it. He got a ton of silicon out of it. I guess he got some slant drilling, nuke protection.
Not a fan of that play though.
Yep.
I'm thinking what else could he have gotten? He could have gotten... I guess geothermal borehole isn't something he should rush.
Colonize, no. Don't go for 5 water tiles. I guess you're a nomad, you can return some of those, but no. At this point, just go for ice. It
Yeah,
as good as the low waters.
but it's much more flexible because you can have it right next to your base.
Right.
Well, meanwhile, Andreas had moved into an optimization center on HQ level 3, and he's been sitting there. It's a beautiful
Doing
building.
nothing.
Yeah, it's a landmark essentially, with no actual purpose.
Yeah, having an optimization center is always nice. They are always very useful buildings, but less useful when they're not being used. Meanwhile, Adderfield's Pleasure Dome up to $540.
And once again, I have to wonder if anyone is going to contest it. Now, this colony is growing very, very strangely, let's say. So it's not really. It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to predict how the colony is going to grow. But in a
Right.
case like this, you kind of have to assume this is going to grow in a straight line. You want to put a Pleasure Dome like in its way, not next to those things.
And hope it just wraps around.
Yeah, at least like it gives you at least one extra adjacency bonus.
This is interesting. Both Colonize and Adderfield buying into Andreas G. If it was just either one of them, I would put a lot of confidence in Andreas defending himself, but with both of them, it's probably not going to happen. Andreas making a play with Nanotech to try to stay alive, but ends up just the slightest bit short.
Yeah, Andreas went for some super, like we were talking about aggressive play from Adderfield, but Andreas was being just as aggressive at the same time with, I think, a little bit less to show for it.
Yeah, on the other hand, I don't know that you ever expected to get double teamed at this point when you're not ahead at all. So I kind of can forgive that aggression.
Yeah, it's also very somewhat tempting to do this early investment because you don't really expect to be punished at this point. Especially since you're not the only scientist in the game, and there's another elite also.
Right. I'm concerned that Zorbaz just completely ignored that buy, though. Because missing out on all that investment is probably going to cost him eventually, and he has plenty of cash. Well, not in cash form, but...
Yeah, he prioritized upgrading and moving into advanced buildings. So he's going for that. He's playing a little more conventionally, I guess.
Yeah. And at this point now, everyone is HQ5, and there's still only one Pleasure Dome on the map.
Yeah, I can't really excuse that. You have to contest it.
It definitely feels bad to contest it, but you just have to.
But you're still going to get some good out of it.
I mean, your Pleasure Dome will be like a solid
200
less than 1/3 of that. It'd be like 200 max.
That's a reasonable amount. I mean, sure, you're not going to have as good a Pleasure Dome, but you're going to limit their opportunities and still have a pretty reasonable building.
Actually, it might even be less than 200, because this is Elite bonus plus virtual reality, plus being the only Pleasure Dome. Looks like the sub is going to build a Pleasure Dome. Yes.
Well, thank you,
AI. Sub AI always gets the job done. Colonize going for off-world at the colony. With Dynamite still at 4.5k. I don't know about that.
My favorite combo of Dynamites and Magnetic Storms.
Yep. The good news is that there are no Goon Poppers.
The bad news... Oh no, he does have a Goon. He's going for 2 off-worlds. Both Goons.
Oh. Okay.
Well, I'll give him that. It's harder to attack 2 offworlds than 1 offworld.
Has another goon stored up, and Zorbaz and Adderfield are skirting the line between C and D. So, in the best case, he might get away with it. Throwing that dynamite at Adderfield is not going to help him with that, though. Your buildings are a lot more expensive than his.
Did you think we would be so easy to hoodwink?
Oh no, why would you do that?
We call it dirty rat.
Oh, let's
And
wave
just like
goodbye.
that, all the goons are gone.
Yeah. Took us about, what, 20 seconds at most?
So if the barrage of dynamites keeps going onto Colonizer's offworlds, Adderfield, well, he still is so much cheaper than Colonized that it's hard to say he has a good chance, but he would have a chance.
Yeah, I feel like Colonize went way too early with these offworlds. He should have increased the prices of black market.
Yeah, I think you start buying up those dynamites, throwing them, maybe just have the one off world, easier to defend, and then buy up Zorbaz since you can do that pretty easily anyway. Or buy up Adderfield, either one. Probably Adderfield.
Granted, he still has so much money that he can buy up all of Zorbaz without
Right.
while repairing all of his offworlds.
Right, without ever getting launch off and well. He's just very solidly in the lead. Adderfield's own offworld is not Goon. He does have thinking machines. And Zorbaz is attacking Adderfield for some reason. Okay.
I can't possibly agree with that. I mean, he has a lot of money, and Zorbaz must be seeing a percentage appear next to his name.
I guess so, but now the percentage has switched. Also, Colonize, when we were talking about going through 5 water tiles, he has moved into a 6th water tile. He's been auto-selling water the whole time.
Yeah, this is a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's he even getting his money from? Because if he's throwing claims like that and producing nothing.
Guess it's one part Andreas, one part the electronics. And I guess Silicon is probably doing great work for him too. Well, no, he's been spiking the Silicon price with his repairs. I don't know.
Other than Andreas, I can't really think of anything. Guess maybe power was spiking at some point or something. Well, he's not out of debt, so he would
right,
have
and the
made
power
cash.
graph is so flat. In any case, Colonize is well on the way to buying out Zor, and once that's done, this game should wrap up very quickly. No, Colonize does not have any return claims left. I wonder what he used them all on. Maybe he did cycle out of some water before and then just cycled into way too much afterwards as an overreaction. But this is why you go ice.
Like if you look at his claims, it doesn't really look like he has switched anything up.
I know he got rid of one silicon quarry. That's the only thing I bought.
Oh, he's
and now
right
put it back. Okay.
Well, at this point, Colonize is a little too expensive, I think, for Adderfield to come back and buy him. And Zorbaz is bound to start producing some nice amount of money, being a scientist and all.
With an off-world. I hope Colonize doesn't buy his own stock and prolong this. That would be sad.
The black market is online.
It would also be the safe play, so it would make
Mm.
sense.
He
But it would
can
be sad.
likely buy
The
up
offer
one
on the market
stock,
is finished and
one
awaiting
more stock, and
orders.
then just sell out of it when he finishes buying up
Successful off-world
Etherfield.
shipment. Make room
Mm-hmm.
for the profits.
It also makes a little bit of sense to buy Etherfield first before he buys more stock in him. It increases the price, so I'm not sure whichever is the best choice.
Yeah, whatever the best choice is doesn't really matter, I guess.
True.
See, how is
The black
Atterfield
market is
has
open for business.
three optimizations. He's had, I guess it's that optimization center has been blown up a lot, but still seems very low.
Well, it is idle at the moment, so I think it's just not being very efficient.
Yeah, and as an elite especially, that's
Off-world shipment launch
not
has
something you can
attendant market
afford.
adjustments. Money.
Yeah, you could have had a lot more claims, at least one or two at this point if it had been running this whole time. But yeah, we're basically waiting for the game to end, which shouldn't take very long. It's unfortunately very clear who the winner is, and if Colonize sold out of his stock, he would have finished by now.
Successful off-world shipment. Make room for the
But there we
profits.
go.
Yep. Well, these rankings look reasonable this time because no one had a big pile of money.
Yeah, unfortunately some rough times were had in our group.
Yep.
Some technical difficulties and all.
Well, we made it through.
And I hope that next time, if this system is going to be used, which I think it's very promising, just
Right, I think we'll be able to get all the problems cleaned up for next time.
yeah, this wasn't the worst pilot, I think. But anyway, with that, if we look at the results, what actually happened.
2D deck. I'm confused
So does he technically win the
because he
game, the
won the final
tournament?
round.
Yes, so the tournament winner is the winner of Group 5A match.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Well,
It makes some sense.
sure. I don't know. I like just accumulating score.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we could be more confident that the score system was well balanced and not buggy, that would be fine. But in this
Yeah,
case, this
yeah,
is
yeah. In this case, it's probably good. And honestly, he was 1 point behind. So I mean, is it really that big a deal?
wait, were Andres and 2D back tied for the?
Yeah, they were actually tied, and I think it kind of came down
Oh,
to our decision to give to the
oh
back the
right,
points. So
right, because 2D back originally would have had. Wait, with the he would have had 2 more points than Andreas before we manually corrected it. Well,
oh
corrected
right,
it in quotes. So I guess we went with the original ordering with that or something.
I don't remember at this point.
I don't know.
Well, either way, hopefully the system will be improved, and just hopefully next time we won't have as many technical difficulties. But with that, thanks for watching.
Yep. Thanks to
And
everyone that came out to watch.
the next tournament is what? Is it the...
Probably FFA Offworld Kings. I think we're doing that in 2 weeks or
Oh,
something.
right. Yeah. And then I guess next is the 1v1 Kings? Because DT wants to push it earlier or something. Oh, that we will see
I'm not
about.
sure. Yeah, we'll figure it out when time comes.
And for now, thanks for sticking around.
Thanks for casting with me.
Thanks for hosting.
Right. And see you all later.